Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're not just skimming the surface, we're really plunging into a truly fascinating, kind of multifaceted collection of your insights.
Yeah, it's quite a stack you've given us.
It really is. You've generously provided us with, well, a whole range of diverse articles and notes. They cover everything from, you know, groundbreaking business strategies and the intricate complexities of human leadership,
Mhm.
all the way to the often surprising, sometimes, well, frankly, irrational realities of finance and economic behavior. It's an incredible mental toolkit you've curated for us here.
Indeed, it's a really rich tapestry of thought spanning decades of wisdom, actually, and some pretty contemporary analysis, too. Our mission, as always, is to navigate these varied perspectives, pull out the most potent nuggets of knowledge,
Right.
and connect the dots in a way that allows you, the listener, to walk away truly well-informed.
Yeah.
We want to spark those aha moments that stick with you long after our conversation,
Yeah, exactly.
providing you with a clearer, more actionable mental model for understanding the forces shaping our world and, crucially, your choices within it.
Okay, let's unpack this incredible array of wisdom then. We'll start by looking at how companies achieve and sustain, a truly competitive advantage in these dynamic markets.
Always a challenge.
Definitely. Then we'll move into the critical role of leadership and organizational culture, that whole human element that drives everything.
Can't forget the people.
Never.
Yeah.
Finally, we'll ground ourselves in the often unpredictable world of finance and economic theory, exploring the hidden gears that turn the global machine.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Let's get started.
Okay.
Strategic vision and business evolution, crafting a route to continuing power.
All right, let's kick off with a fantastic example from the Seven Powers source about Netflix. Here's a company that perfectly understood the profound need to, well, obsolete itself, to disrupt its own successful model before someone else did it to them. It's not just a story of innovation. It's really a masterclass in strategic foresight and uncomfortable but necessary self-destruction.
What's truly fascinating here is not just that Netflix pivoted, but how methodically they approached it.
Right.
The source highlights that streaming wasn't just seen as an add-on. It was identified pretty early on as a strategically separate business from their original, hugely successful DVD by mail service.
So not just a small shift.
No, not at all. This wasn't a minor tweak to the recipe. The source says the drivers of power in each were largely orthogonal. Now, orthogonal is a bit of a technical term.
Yeah, what does that mean exactly in this context?
Well, think of it this way. Imagine you're a champion chess player. You've mastered the board, the pieces, the strategies. But suddenly, the game changes to poker. While both need strategy, the fundamental rules, the competitive dynamics, the skill sets needed to win, they're completely different. That's what Netflix recognized.
Ah, I see. So the economics, the competitors, what customers expected from streaming, it was a whole new ballgame.
Exactly. A wholly new game. Despite, interestingly, plummeting IT costs, which you might think suggested diminishing barriers for new entrants in streaming, Netflix was apparently undaunted. They saw the future.
So what does this all mean for us, whether we're running a business or even just navigating our own careers? They looked at this new streaming game and realized they had, and this is a direct quote, no choice but to embrace streaming. As astute strategists, they knew that if they didn't obsolete themselves, someone else would do it to them.
That's a powerful, almost brutal lesson, isn't it?
It really is. Adapting to market shifts, proactively challenging your own successful models, even when it feels completely counterintuitive, even when it's painful, like cannibalizing your own revenue stream.
Yeah, it's about seeing the iceberg before your ship hits it, right? And then
Yeah.
deliberately steering into the change, not trying to avoid it.
Exactly. Steer into it.
Precisely. And importantly, this wasn't some reckless leap into the dark. The source notes they modestly eased into streaming in 2007.
Right. They didn't just flip a switch.
No, they took their time, tested the waters, gained experience. This involved, and it sounds exhausting, much painstaking legwork, partnering with a dizzying array of electronic hardware streaming platform makers.
Wow. Think of the complexity there, getting their service onto countless different TVs, gaming consoles, all those devices.
What's mind-boggling. But this slow, deliberate, yet ultimately relentless approach allowed them to build capabilities. Their eventual remarkable rise wasn't just driven by being first, but by strategically moving to exclusives and originals.
Ah, the content itself.
Yes, this allowed them to wield their scale as a source of profound leverage, creating what the source calls scale economies.
Okay, that leverage sounds key. It's defined as the benefit flowing from the reduction in content cost enabled by their vast pool of subscribers.
Double find with the barrier resulting from the unattractive cost benefit of market share onslaughts.
So in simpler terms, what does that mean?
Basically, because Netflix had so many subscribers paying monthly, they could afford to produce or license really high-quality, exclusive content at a much lower per-subscriber cost than any newcomer could possibly manage.
Got it.
And for any new competitor trying to match that content library, they'd have to spend an absolute fortune without the huge subscriber base to spread the cost over. That makes it an unattractive onslaught.
Right, prohibitively expensive for a startup.
Exactly. And this combination, this advantage, is what the Seven Powers calls the mantra, a route to continuing power in significant markets. It's not just about winning once, but setting up a lasting, defensible advantage.
Continuing power, I like that.
This concept of continuing power is absolutely crucial and honestly often overlooked. Many companies focus on achieving like a momentary lead,
Yeah, a quick win.
Right. But true strategic mastery, as Netflix demonstrated, emphasizes sustainability. It's the need for, and I quote again, ongoing layering on of different sources of power as a business progresses.
Layering on, like
that.
building defenses.
Kind of. Imagine building a fortress. You don't just build one wall and say, okay, we're done. You add turrets, moats, inner walls, supply lines.
Yeah.
You're constantly reinforcing and expanding your defenses and capabilities.
Okay, that makes sense.
For Netflix, that meant moving from DVDs to licensed streaming content, then to exclusive licensed content, then to original programming. Each step built on the last, creating more value for subscribers and stronger barriers for competitors.
So it's not a one-time achievement.
Definitely not. It's a continuous strategic endeavor, a relentless pursuit of excellence that's constantly building and reinforcing its market position.
That idea of continuous layering is a perfect segue, actually. Moving from Netflix's strategic pivot, let's look at how other companies manage their growth portfolio, particularly around innovation. The Blue Ocean Strategy Source introduces us to a fantastic mental model, the idea of pioneers, migrators, and settlers.
Ah, yes, that's a really useful framework.
It seems like a very vivid way to categorize where the company's business units or products stand in their life cycle, right? And it offers a powerful lens for thinking about strategic resource allocation.
It's incredibly valuable for understanding market dynamics and that constant need for renewal within any organization. So pioneers are your ventures designed for future growth.
The explorers.
Exactly. The bold, often unproven ideas that could create entirely new markets or maybe transform existing ones. Think of them as setting off into uncharted territory.
Okay.
Then you have migrators. These are businesses taking a current market and significantly improving it, adding value, moving customers from an old solution to a clearly better one.
So making something existing much better.
Right. And then settlers are those businesses generating current cash flow, often in mature, competitive markets, but with pretty limited long-term growth potential. They're reliable, they pay the bills today, but they're probably not going to be your future growth engine.
It makes so much sense when you put it like that. The inherent challenge, though, is that today's pioneers, well, they eventually become settlers, don't they?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Due to imitation, market saturation, evolving customer needs. It's the natural life cycle.
So to maintain strong, profitable growth, companies need to be constantly active, always thinking about the next frontier. They need to launch a new blue ocean, either by regenerating existing businesses in innovative ways or by creating entirely new offerings.
Yeah, you can't stand still. The source cites Apple Inc. as an excellent example of a company that has, arguably, mastered this continuous innovation cycle.
Right, think of their progression. iPod, then iPhone, then iPad, each creating a new blue ocean they largely define themselves.
Exactly. And the source also distinguishes between two critical types of innovation, which is interesting. There's reconstruction, which reshapes the boundary and the structure of an industry and creates a blue ocean.
Like inventing the smartphone category itself, fundamentally changing how we communicate, consume media.
Precisely. Making the old competition almost irrelevant by creating this new, uncontested market space.
Okay, and the other type?
The other is recombination, which tends to maximize technological possibilities to discover innovative solutions to a given and known problem.
So improving something that already exists, like making a faster chip or a lighter laptop.
Yeah, exactly. This might be making a faster, lighter, or more efficient version of an existing product. Both are valuable, of course, but reconstruction truly expands the pie, while recombination is more about battling for existing slices.
And it also highlights that conventional technology innovation often follows a predictable pattern, right?
Right.
High prices initially, limited access for early adopters,
Mm.
and then gradually lowering prices over time to retain market share as competitors inevitably emerge.
Right. Whereas value innovation, which is central to the whole blue ocean strategy, focuses on creating new market space by simultaneously pursuing differentiation and low cost.
Both at the same time. That sounds hard.
It is. The aim is to make competition irrelevant right from the start, appealing to a mass market by offering both superior value and accessibility. But, as you hinted, it's not always a guaranteed success.
No silver bullet.
Definitely not. We also learned from the Red Ocean Trap source that many technology innovations fail to create new markets, even if they win the company accolades.
Like the Segway.
Exactly the example they use. A brilliant piece of engineering, highly innovative, technically amazing, but cited as a failure, as an investment. Why? Often because it lacked a necessary ecosystem.
Right. You need more than just the gadget. You need the infrastructure, the context, the clear customer need.
Precisely. A brilliant invention isn't enough. It needs fertile ground, supporting infrastructure, and a clear value proposition for customers to truly thrive.
That's a critical point. The best tech in the world won't succeed if it doesn't fit into people's lives, or if the market just isn't ready for it.
And the Crossing the Chasm source reminds us that high-tech innovation and marketing expertise are two cornerstones of the U.S. strategy for global competitiveness.
So it's crucial for the economy as a whole.
Absolutely. It says we must predictably and successfully bring high-tech products to market to maintain our standard of living. This isn't just about cool gadgets. It's about economic survival and national prosperity.
And who were the first people to jump on these new technologies?
Well, technology enthusiasts are described as the gatekeepers for any new technology. They're the first ones in line, the early adopters, the ones willing to put up with bugs and experiment because they're genuinely fascinated by the tech itself.
They provide crucial feedback.
Yes, and validation. Interestingly, the source points out that visionaries in the early market, often business leaders looking for a breakthrough advantage, are relatively price insensitive.
They're not looking for a discount.
Not primarily. They're seeking a strategic leap forward, something that gives them an order of magnitude return on investment. They often want to pay extra money in the price if it ensures special service and a higher chance of success for their strategic initiative.
That's fascinating.
It's described as pure value-based pricing, where the perceived strategic benefit or potential transformation far outweighs the immediate cost. A powerful insight into the motivations of those early adopters of truly disruptive technologies.
Speaking of market disruption and visionaries, our sources offer a real deep dive into Amazon's strategies under Jeff Bezos. And here's where it gets really interesting, I think.
Yeah, the Amazon story is always compelling.
It shows a company that systematically fought against internal resistance to innovation and just constantly pushed the boundaries of what a retailer and then, well, a technology company could be.
The Everything Store source details Bezos' relentless battle against what he famously called the institutional no.
The institutional no. What's that?
It's basically any internal resistance within the company to unorthodox moves. He observed that even strong companies, maybe especially strong companies, tended to reflexively push back against moves in unusual directions.
So, corporate inertia, basically. Falling into comfortable routines.
Exactly. And to counteract this ingrained tendency, he even famously asked his board members to share examples of this phenomenon from their own past experiences. He essentially said, let's learn from our collective mistakes and consciously fight this tendency.
Wow, that takes some self-awareness as a leader.
It really speaks to a leadership style that deliberately cultivated a culture of openness to radical, often uncomfortable ideas.
And this drove a culture of calculated risk-taking, right? And an almost obsessive focus on the long game, often at the expense of short-term profits.
Absolutely. Think about Amazon's ingenious negative operating cycle. That was a true financial masterstroke early on.
Explain that again. How did it work?
Well, basically, customers paid with their credit cards when their books shipped, but Amazon settled its accounts with the book distributors only every few months.
So they got the cash before they had to pay their suppliers.
Exactly. Most businesses operate on a positive operating cycle. They pay suppliers before they get paid by customers, which creates a constant need for working capital or loans. Amazon flipped that completely on its head.
That's incredible, like getting an interest-free loan from your customers?
Pretty much. It created a steady stream of capital to fund its operations and expansion without needing external financing as frequently. That cash flow was crucial fuel for their aggressive growth in the early days.
And it wasn't just financial engineering. It was also about leveraging what Bezos saw as a uniquely high return on invested capital in the digital world.
Right. Unlike brick-and-mortar stores with lots of physical locations, Amazon's single website and centralized warehouses initially meant a considerably more favorable fixed cost-to-revenue ratio.
Lower overheads.
Much lower. Bezos believed a dollar that was plugged into Amazon's infrastructure could lead to exponentially greater returns than a dollar invested in traditional retail infrastructure. He fundamentally understood the economic difference between physical and digital, and he exploited that insight relentlessly.
And he relentlessly pushed for risks outside the core bookselling business, often against internal skepticism and even external ridicule, didn't he?
Oh, constantly. Think about it. Launching their own search engine, A9. Allowing searches inside books, a revolutionary idea at the time. Pioneering crowdsourcing with Mechanical Turk.
Mechanical Turk, yeah, basically creating a marketplace for human intelligence tasks.
Wild stuff back then. And of course, laying the groundwork for Amazon Web Services, AWS, which famously ushered in the age of cloud computing.
These weren't small incremental changes. These were huge visionary bets.
Massive bets that fundamentally reshapes not just Amazon, but entire industries and the global technology landscape. He wasn't afraid to take on seemingly impossible challenges if he believed they served the long-term customer.
And what about the ebook pricing? The $9.99 price point.
Ah, yes, the controversial $9.99 ebook price, apparently a gut call by Bezos. Initially, Amazon lost money on every ebook sold because they were buying them at higher wholesale prices but selling them lower.
So a loss leader.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
An investment in the future, a strategic long game. He believed that publishers would eventually be forced to lower their wholesale prices to reflect the lower costs of digital production and the changing market dynamics driven by Amazon's scale.
So using their market power to drive down costs long term.
Exactly. It highlights that truly long-term, customer-centric view, even at a short-term loss, dreamed by the conviction that lower prices would drive Kindle adoption and ultimately transform the publishing market.
And the source also tells that story about Jeff Wilke burning a boat.
Yeah, that's a classic Amazon anecdote. Apparently, he shut down a key fulfillment center right during a critical sales surge to force the company to master complexity and decentralize its decision-making processes.
Wow, talk about high-stakes leadership.
Right. That kind of decisive, high-stakes action, showcasing leadership by example, augmented with a healthy dose of impatience, was apparently integral to Amazon's culture of relentless improvement and overcoming any obstacle.
Okay, so from these large-scale, sometimes audacious strategies, let's maybe zoom in on the fundamentals of adapting to markets. Let's pull from marketing myopia and maybe some of Sam Walton's lessons.
Good idea. These sources remind us that even the grandest visions need to be grounded in the realities of customer needs and the competitive landscape.
Right. Vision without execution or without market understanding. Well, it's just hallucination, isn't it?
Pretty much. Marketing myopia offers a really stark, enduring warning for any business leader or aspiring entrepreneur. It states, quite boldly, in truth, there is no such thing as a growth industry.
No growth industry. That sounds wrong. What does that mean?
It's a crucial, counterintuitive insight. Growth isn't guaranteed just by being in a particular industry that seems hot at the moment. Real, sustained growth comes from being perceptive enough to spot where future growth may lie, which is often outside your current definition of your business.
So looking beyond your current market.
Exactly. Companies often fall into undetected decay by making dangerous assumptions. They assume growth will continue indefinitely because their product is good today.
Complacency.
Yeah. Or they believe their product cannot be surpassed because of its current quality. Or they over-rely on production techniques for lower costs, focusing inward on efficiency.
And thereby neglecting marketing, neglecting the customer.
Precisely. Neglecting the crucial role of marketing and understanding evolving customer desires. The emphasis on production efficiency, driven by the prospect of declining unit costs, often overshadows the fundamental need to truly understand and adapt to the market. They become myopic, short-sighted.
Focus inwards on what they produce, rather than outwards on what customers actually need and value.
You got it. They define their business too narrowly by the product, not the customer need it fulfills.
Okay, so this is where Sam Walton's approach, described in Sam Walton Made in America, is maybe an instructive counterpoint to that myopia.
Absolutely. He built Walmart incrementally, step by step, for a quarter century apparently, before hitting that breakthrough momentum.
A quarter century, that's persistence.
Incredible patience and diligence. This wasn't about flashy innovation or massive initial capital. It was about diligent, persistent effort over a long period. He talks quite openly about stealing, I actually prefer the word borrowed, as many ideas from competitors as he could,
Ah, borrowing ideas.
and relentlessly studying the discounting concept. His genius wasn't necessarily in inventing a whole new product category, but in perfecting a business model by constantly observing, learning, adapting, and relentlessly focusing on the customer and their need for everyday low prices.
So he didn't just think he knew what customers wanted.
No, he borrowed what was working elsewhere and studied what made it work, then applied it better, more consistently, and with incredible discipline.
And Walden also possessed a keen understanding of market niches, right? And the limits of even a giant like Walmart.
Yes, he openly admitted that even his behemoth couldn't reach all customers or serve every need perfectly. He believed, for instance, that a good, smart hardware store operator can just beat us to death if he thinks about what he's doing and commits to putting up a fight.
How so?
By offering a better, more specialized assortment for that specific niche and having really knowledgeable salespeople who can offer advice and service that a big box store just can't match.
So specialization and service can compete against scale.
Absolutely. It underlines the importance of truly understanding your competitive advantage, focusing on a specific customer segment, and delivering differentiated value that even the biggest players can't easily replicate. It's a powerful reminder that local, focused expertise and genuine customer connection can still thrive.
It really comes back to constantly changing the things we do to survive, rather than just resting on past successes, doesn't it?
Exactly. The market is always moving. Stagnation, even for the most successful companies or individuals, is eventually a path to irrelevance. You have to keep adapting.
Yeah.
The human element, leadership, management, and organizational culture.
Okay, let's shift our focus now, pretty dramatically actually, to the people who drive these strategies, the leaders and the teams themselves.
Right, because even the most brilliant strategic visions and business models, well, they're meaningless without the right human execution and the right culture behind them.
Absolutely. Our sources offer some really rich insights here, especially from Peter Drucker and others, on mastering oneself and leading effectively.
Peter Drucker's managing oneself is just foundational, isn't it? Truly timeless advice that resonates with anyone looking to be effective, whether in their career or just their personal life.
He states pretty bluntly that acting on this knowledge is the key to performance, or rather, not acting on this knowledge condemns one to non-performance.
Yeah, it's not just a nice philosophical statement. He sees it as a practical imperative. Drucker encourages profound self-reflection, asking these key questions for self-understanding, like, am I a reader or a listener?
That seems simple, but why is it important?
Well, think about it. If you're primarily a listener, you learn best by hearing things. But your boss communicates mainly through dense written memos. You're immediately at a disadvantage, right?
Right, you might miss nuances or struggle to retain the information.
Exactly. Conversely, if you're a reader and your organization thrives on verbal briefings and quick meetings, you need to adapt your approach or find ways to get the information in a format that works for you.
Okay, makes sense. What else?
Another key question is, how do I learn? Do you learn best by doing, by watching, by reading, by teaching others? Understanding your own optimal learning style is critical for continuous development and skill acquisition.
And he also advises asking, do I work well with people or am I a loner?
Right. And if you do work well with people, then the follow-up is, in what relationship? Do you thrive as a collaborative team member, a mentor guiding others, decisive leader, or maybe as a specialist working largely independently?
So, finding your niche within the team structure.
Precisely. These aren't just questions for climbing the corporate ladder. They're essential for personal effectiveness, for finding your place where you can make the most meaningful contribution and feel fulfilled.
Drucker also offers that profound personal anecdote, doesn't he? Recalling how he quit a successful investment banking career in London back in the mid-1930s.
Yeah, that's a powerful story. He said he did not see myself making a contribution as an asset manager, despite being successful by conventional standards.
And why was that?
He realized people were what I valued, and I saw no point in being the richest man in the cemetery. It came down to his fundamental values.
Wow. That really reinforces his point that values, in other words, are and should be the ultimate test.
Absolutely. It's about aligning your actions, your career, your whole life with what truly matters to you. It's the ultimate why behind your what.
And ignoring your values, even for material gain.
Can lead to profound dissatisfaction and a sense of meaninglessness down the road. It often requires real courage, as Drucker showed, to make difficult choices that prioritize purpose over conventional metrics of success.
This point about values connects deeply with another idea he raises, the importance of having options.
Yes, especially in a modern knowledge society where, let's be honest, everyone to be a success in the traditional sense is probably an impossibility.
Right, not everyone can be CEO or reach the absolute top.
Exactly. For many people, Drucker suggests there is, at best, an absence of failure, rather than spectacular success in their primary role. In such a world, he argues, it becomes vitally important to find a second area.
A second area, like a hobby.
It could be more significant than just a hobby, maybe a second career, a parallel career, or a serious social venture. Something that offers an opportunity for being a leader, for being respected, for being a success outside of one's main job.
Ah, so it provides a crucial outlet for contribution and self-worth.
Precisely. It gives individuals a sense of fulfillment and agency, even if their primary job is just, a means to an end. It acknowledges the multifaceted nature of human aspiration.
Okay, so what about managing upwards? That's a critical skill for almost everyone, isn't it? Unless you're the ultimate boss.
Absolutely vital. The Managing Your Boss source offers some really practical advice here. It states, maybe counterintuitively, that the burden falls on the subordinate to find out what the boss's expectations are.
The burden's on the subordinate, not the boss.
That's what it argues.
Yeah.
You might think it's the boss's job to be perfectly clear, but effective managers understand that if your boss is broad or vague, you have to be proactive to get that clarity.
So how do you do that without seeming annoying?
Well, the source suggests finding ways to get the information. Perhaps by drafting a detailed memo, outlining what you understand their expectations to be based on what you've heard, and then reviewing it with them face to face.
Ah, so you're offering them something concrete to react to.
Exactly. You're essentially saying, here's what I think you want me to do. Is this right? It gives them an easy opportunity to correct or refine your understanding. It puts the onus on you, the subordinate, to proactively manage that critical relationship and ensure alignment, rather than just waiting passively for instructions or making potentially wrong assumptions.
That's really practical. And what about managing your own time as a manager? The HBR's 10 must-reads on managing yourself adds that brilliant pip about monkeys, right?
Oh, yeah. The monkey analogy is fantastic.
Sure.
A monkey, in this context, represents a problem or a task that an employee brings to you, the manager.
Okay.
If you, as the manager, simply take the problem on yourself, okay, I'll figure it out, then the monkey is now on your back. You've just accepted responsibility for solving their problem.
And soon you have a whole troop of monkeys clinging to you.
Exactly. Your time gets completely consumed by solving your team's problems instead of doing your own strategic work. The source illustrates how to gently but firmly shift the monkey back to its rightful owner, the employee, while still offering guidance.
How do you do that?
When an employee brings you a problem, you clarify the level of initiative they should take next. Do they just recommend a solution, or should they recommend and implement it? Should they take action, then brief you immediately, or maybe just act and report the outcome in a regular update?
Ah, setting clear expectations for their next step.
Precisely. This simple categorization liberates your time, empowers your team members, builds their skills and confidence, and fosters greater autonomy and responsibility within the team. It's about not just delegating tasks, but delegating the actual problem-solving responsibility and decision-making authority where appropriate.
That sounds like a much healthier way to manage.
Definitely. And Drucker also offers timeless advice to executives on how to manage their people. One key point is to make strength productive.
Making strength productive.
Yeah, looking at what can this man do, rather than focusing on what can he not do. It's a positive, forward-looking perspective that focuses on leveraging the talent you have, rather than constantly dwelling on deficiencies or trying to fix every perceived weakness.
So play to people's strengths.
Exactly. It's about recognizing and capitalizing on unique abilities. He also advises executives to feed the opportunities and starve the problems.
Meaning?
Don't spend all your precious time and resources patching holes or dealing with chronic issues. Invest your best energy in the areas that are working well and show the most promise for future growth. Focus on the upside.
That makes strategic sense.
And maybe most importantly, Drucker stresses that effective leaders think and say we. Why? because effective executives know that they have ultimate responsibility. But, and this is crucial, they have authority only because they have the trust of the organization.
Ah, authority flows from trust.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that leadership isn't just about having power or a title. It's fundamentally about earning and maintaining the trust of the people you lead. Without that trust, your authority quickly erodes no matter what your job title is.
Okay, so from individual effectiveness and managing ourselves, let's transition now to team dynamics and the qualities of great leaders who build cohesive, high-performing groups.
Right. How do you get a whole group working effectively together?
Exactly. The Team of Teams source and Five Dysfunctions of a Team offer some really compelling, sometimes maybe uncomfortable lessons on how to cultivate truly effective collaboration.
The Team of Teams source, which draws heavily on lessons from military special operations in complex environments like Iraq, highlights a critical shift needed in today's world.
What's the shift?
It emphasizes how shared consciousness helped us understand and react to the interdependence of the battlefield. This meant a radical departure from traditional hierarchical command structures, where information flows slowly up and down the chain of command.
The old siloed approach.
Right. Instead, they pushed for speed and radical sharing of information with extreme decentralization of decision-making authority. The traditional model of a single, all-knowing commander making every single decision was just too slow, too rigid for the fast-moving, unpredictable reality they faced.
So pushing information and decisions down to the edges.
Exactly. The goal was to create an organization that could adapt and react as quickly and intelligently as the challenges it faced, by empowering those closest to the information, those on the ground, to make critical decisions in real time.
They even have that joke, don't they, about the task force commander being a bit like a Formula One driver.
Yeah, you get to drive in an incredible car, but you don't own it, and you don't pay for the repairs when you break something.
Huh. That's a fantastic analogy. What does it illustrate?
It perfectly illustrates the inherent tension and also the profound need for trust between the operational commands, those actually doing the work, making real-time decisions, and the administrative commands or headquarters that provide the resources and oversight.
So high responsibility, but not absolute control.
Precisely. It's a vivid picture of leading with immense responsibility, but not direct control over every detail, relying deeply on the capabilities and judgment of specialized teams, and accepting that, yeah, sometimes things will break. It's about leading through influence, shared purpose, and enabling others, rather than pure top-down command and control.
That sounds like a very different style of leadership.
It is. Now, the discipline of teams offers a different but equally crucial distinction that could save many organizations from wasting time on ineffective team-building exercises.
Oh, that's that.
It argues that a common performance objective is much more motivating for effective teams than the desire to be a team.
So focus on the goal, not just the feeling of being a team.
Exactly. The focus should be on achieving tangible, measurable results together, not just on the abstract idea of being a team or having pleasant social interactions, although those can help. It's about applying the right discipline at the right time against the right challenge.
Okay, so how do you do that practically?
Well, the source says groups need to ask themselves a critical practical question right at the outset. How will you know you were successful? What will you measure, assess, or calibrate against?
Be specific about success.
Yes. The source warns against vague circular statements of purpose like, our goal is to be a great team. That's meaningless. Instead, effective teams define specific, challenging goals that genuinely require collective effort, and then they hold each other accountable to achieving those outcomes. The shared goal is the glue.
That makes sense. Accountability to a shared objective.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the individual leaders who foster these teams, what makes a leader source digs into emotional intelligence, or EQ.
Right, EQ, self-awareness, empathy, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It points out that EQ, comprising self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skill, often increases with age, which is interesting. And significantly, it can be learned.
So it's not just an innate trait you're born with.
No. That's the hugely optimistic message. It's not a fixed trait you either have or don't. You can develop your emotional intelligence over time with conscious effort.
What about empathy? Sometimes seen as soft.
Yeah, empathy is often mistakenly seen as unbusinesslike or a soft skill, but the source argues it's actually a vital dimension of effective leadership. It allows leaders to understand the unspoken dynamics within their teams, anticipate needs, build rapport, and connect on a deeper, more human level.
Which builds trust, presumably.
Absolutely. Similarly, a strong internal drive to surpass goals, not just meet them, but exceed them, and an interest in keeping score, meaning a healthy competitiveness, not just against others, but against your own past performance, can be contagious.
Inspiring the team.
Right, it can inspire similar dedication and high performance in team members. These aren't just personality quirks, they are measurable competencies that demonstrably drive better results.
And Satya Nadella in Hit Refresh talks about culture too, right?
Yes. He emphasizes customer obsession and building healthy partnerships as natural outcomes of a strong, positive culture. He frames his approach at Microsoft using what he calls his 3 Cs.
The 3 Cs.
Yeah. Concepts, that's the vision or the exciting product idea, what you're trying to build. Capabilities, the engineering, design, operational skills needed to actually build it, the how, and right at the center, culture.
Culture is the core.
Exactly. Culture represents the shared values and mindset that embraces new ideas, learns from failure, and actively invites partners in. It's the why and the who. He argues strongly that concepts are better and capabilities more comprehensive when the culture invites partners to the table.
So a collaborative, outward-looking culture isn't just a nice to have.
No, he sees it as a strategic imperative. It directly enhances the quality of your ideas and your ability to execute them successfully in today's complex, interconnected world. You can't do it all alone.
Okay, so while we've celebrated effective leadership and strategic vision, our sources also, unfortunately, reveal the darker side of power and influence.
Yeah, it's not all positive examples, is it?
Not at all. From the really controversial figure of Robert Moses to the devastating Enron scandal, here's where it gets, well, really interesting in a different way. It shows the destructive potential of unchecked ambition and the systemic failures that can sometimes allow it to flourish.
It's a necessary, if sobering, look at how the human element can go terribly wrong.
The Power Broker, Robert Caro's epic biography, portrays Robert Moses as this incredibly complex and formidable figure. He was undeniably an architect of modern New York City.
Built highways, parks, bridges, huge impact.
Huge impact. Yet simultaneously, Caro paints him as a brilliant guy with a highly defective character and even a natural bully.
What's chilling, I think, is the insight into his manipulation. Apparently he didn't lie just because he can't help it, like a pathological liar. No, he lied as a matter of policy.
Lying as a tool.
Yes, deliberately manipulating facts and public perception to serve his colossal, often ruthless agenda. Critics initially believed that his apparent lack of interest in money automatically signified interest in serving the public.
A common assumption, maybe? If someone isn't greedy, they must be altruistic.
Right, it seems logical. But they eventually realized this was a fallacy. His other interest, Caro argues, wasn't money, it was power. Pure, unadulterated power.
And why was that worse?
Because, as the book suggests, power for its own sake, held by a public official with immense, all but uncontrollable power, could actually be more inimical to the city than financial greed. Unchecked power, untethered from ethical considerations or public accountability, can be far more destructive in the long run than simple avarice.
That's a profound and quite scary observation.
It really is. And Al Smith, who was a key political supporter of Moses in his early career, apparently masterfully understood and exploited the levers of political influence. The source describes how Smith would strategically time his public statements, waiting for just the right moment. The moment at which the president and the mayor had been driven to the edge of a decision, and a single push could plunge them over the edge into surrender.
Wow. Applying pressure at the point of maximum vulnerability.
Exactly. It highlights the cynical, calculated use of influence, not necessarily through rational argument or moral persuasion, but through psychological leverage, by applying pressure at critical junctures when political opponents are most vulnerable to capitulation. It's a masterclass in political maneuvering, perhaps, but one that raises serious ethical questions about the ends justifying the means.
Definitely. Now, moving to the financial world, Den of Thieves exposes the gritty, sort of sordid mechanics of insider trading back in the 1980s.
Yeah, that whole era of corporate raiders and arbitrageurs.
We see figures like the investment banker Dennis Siegel, who apparently tried to tailor his leaks to what he perceived as the interests of his clients, like the famous arbitrager Ivan Bugaski.
So managing his illicit information flow.
Right, apparently keeping more secret from Boteski than he gave to others, maintaining this perverse kind of pecking order of illegal information. It paints a picture of a criminal enterprise with its own internal dynamics.
And Boteski's persistence is noted too, right? Even offering to put money in a European account for Siegel or hire Siegel's father for a lucrative position, classic payoff attempts.
Which Siegel remarkably refused, apparently saying something like, I'm not going to flee the country, for God's sake.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Even within these illicit dealings, there seem to be lines individuals are unwilling to cross, highlighting the complex psychology of those operating outside the law.
The poison pill defense also comes up, pioneered partly by Siegel with the lawyer Martin Lipton. That's another fascinating detail from that era.
Right, the poison pill.
Oh.
A strategic corporate defense maneuver designed to make a hostile takeover prohibitively expensive.
How did it work?
Typically, it gave existing shareholders exorbitant rights, like the right to buy shares in the combined company at a massive discount, if a certain threshold of ownership was crossed by an unwanted suitor. It essentially flooded the market with new shares, diluting the acquirer's stake and making the acquisition financially crippling.
So, a financial weapon born out of those cutthroat corporate rating battles.
Exactly, showing the high stakes and the creative, often aggressive strategies employed in those M&A fights back then.
And then there's Enron. The smartest guys in the room reveals their elaborate and ultimately devastating financial scams.
Yeah, Enron became the poster child for corporate fraud, didn't it?
It really did. The source details the complex partnerships, these off-balance sheet entities that were specifically designed to obfuscate the true financial position of the firm, hiding debt, basically.
Famously, they booked a $115 million loan from a joint venture with Blockbuster as a profit
A loan as profit. How is that even possible?
through incredibly complex and dubious accounting maneuvers. And the chilling part, Wall Street analysts were apparently applauding their supposed profitability, and the prestigious accounting firm Arthur Andersen was certifying the books year after year.
Wow, a complete breakdown of checks and balances.
It's a chilling example of how deliberate deception, enabled by complicit or perhaps grossly negligent actors, can create an entirely illusory financial reality, propped up by perceived authority, market hype, and a stunning lack of critical scrutiny from those who should have known better.
It paints a truly damning picture, not just of the corporate executives, but also of a widespread failure of oversight, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The source notes that many Wall Street analysts who had buy recommendations on the stock right up until the end later tried to claim that Enron had lied to them.
Passing the buck.
Pretty much. But the book argues, quite forcefully, that there was more than enough on the public record to raise the hairs on the neck of any self-respecting analyst. Their job, the authors contend, isn't just to take management's word for it.
Right, their job is to
Their job is to dive into a company's financial documents, pore over the footnotes, get past management's assurances, and even to get past accounting obfuscations.
dig deeper, be skeptical.
Exactly. So the Enron story isn't just about a few bad apples at the top. It's a stark reminder of the systemic failure of due diligence and critical thinking from those who should have been the guardians of financial integrity, the analysts, the auditors, even the board. A powerful lesson in looking beyond the slick presentations and surface-level narratives. 3. Unpacking financial realities and economic forces beyond the surface.
Okay, let's transition now into the world of finance itself, an arena where understanding risk, market dynamics, and crucially, underlying human behavior is paramount.
Yeah, finance and economics where rationality often meets irrationality.
Definitely. A random walk down Wall Street offers some timeless, incredibly practical advice for anyone looking to invest, and it really cuts through a lot of the noise and hype you often hear.
It really does. It directly addresses the inherent risks in investing, emphasizing that markets are fundamentally unpredictable in the short term. You just can't consistently time the market.
Right. It mentions gold's historic unpredictability, for example. Apparently, fluctuations up or down of 50% to 75% in a single year are not uncommon.
That's wild volatility. Yet despite that, it also acknowledges gold can play a useful role in balancing a diversified portfolio, perhaps as a hedge against inflation or major market crashes.
But the most memorable piece of advice, I think, comes from the legendary financier J.P. Morgan. He famously told a worried friend to
Sell down to the sleeping point.
sell down to the sleeping point. That's such a powerful phrase, isn't it?
It really is. It perfectly captures the psychological, deeply personal element of investing that so many complex financial models often completely overlook.
It's not just about maximizing returns on paper.
No, it's about finding the trade-off he or she is willing to make between eating well and sleeping well. The core message is simple but profound. High investment rewards can only be achieved by accepting substantial risk.
There's no free lunch.
Exactly. And finding your sleeping point is one of the most important investment steps you must take. For you, the listener, this means truly understanding your own genuine risk tolerance.
Not what you think it should be or what some advisor tells you it is.
Right. But what actually allows you to feel comfortable and secure, to sleep at night without constantly worrying about your portfolio. Are you losing sleep over your investments? Then you're probably beyond your personal sleeping point, regardless of what the market charts might be suggesting at that moment.
That's really good practical advice. Know thyself, financially speaking.
Absolutely. Now, The Black Swan by Nassim Taleb further complicates this whole understanding of risk by introducing the concept of, well, black swans.
Right, these are the unpredictable, high-impact events.
Exactly. Low predictability and large impact events. Think of things like the 9/11 attacks, the 2008 global financial crisis, maybe even the recent pandemic. These are rare, extreme events that are basically impossible to predict using standard forecasting models, but they have massive transformative consequences when they occur.
And the book criticizes.
It highlights how social scientists, and particularly financial analysts, have often operated under the false belief that their tools could measure uncertainty and predict these kinds of outlier events. He's quite scathing about it.
He critiques security analysts specifically, doesn't he?
Yes, saying they are often worse at predicting future earnings or stock prices than even weather forecasters, which is saying something. But paradoxically, they tend to have greater faith in their own skills and keep providing confident forecasts anyway.
The illusion of control.
Precisely. It's a crucial caution against overconfidence and the illusion of control in financial forecasting, especially when facing the possibility of extreme, unforeseen events. It reminds us that our neat models often fail to capture the true randomness and inherent complexity of the real world. We're fooled by randomness.
So what does this all mean for us, the individual investors and decision makers trying to navigate this?
Well, taking these together, the clear message is, don't blindly trust forecasts, especially those made with excessive certainty. And, coming back to J.P. Morgan, know your own true psychological risk tolerance, your sleeping point.
The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, who was Warren Buffett's mentor, reinforces this too, doesn't it?
Yes, Graham makes a very clear distinction. He states that if an investor places his emphasis on timing, in the sense of forecasting, basically trying to predict market movements, he will end up as a speculator, and with a speculator's financial results.
So timing the market is speculating, not investing.
That's Graham's view. He draws a clear line between investing for fundamental value, focusing on the long-term growth prospects and intrinsic worth of a business, and speculating on short-term price movements, which he saw as a far riskier and usually less profitable game in the long run.
Okay, shifting gears slightly to the fundamentals of personal finance, away from market complexities. The Richest Man in Babylon.
Ah, the classic. Simple, ancient wisdom, but still profoundly relevant today.
What are its core tenets?
They're beautifully simple. First, learn to live upon less than you could earn. Pay yourself first. That's the absolute foundation of saving and building any capital.
Control your spending?
Right. Second, seek advice from those who are competent, recognizing that you don't have to know everything yourself, but you should choose your advisors wisely. Don't take financial advice from the inexperienced.
Makes sense. And third?
Third, make gold work for you, which is a timeless, poetic way of describing the magic of compound growth investing your savings so they start generating further returns on their own. Put your money to work.
So basic financial discipline, consistent saving, prudent counsel, and understanding compounding.
Exactly. These are the bedrock principles for building wealth and financial security, regardless of market conditions or economic cycles. They've worked for millennia.
Okay, let's zoom out now. Beyond individual investments and personal finance, our sources also touch on broader economic systems and international relations. And they reveal some complex interdependencies that often defy simple analogies.
Yeah, things get complicated quickly at the macro level.
Paul Krugman's A Country is Not a Company offers a really critical perspective here, arguing that we often misunderstand national economies by applying corporate logic inappropriately.
Krugman highlights what he sees as a fundamental flaw in much of the public discourse, especially when business leaders talk about economics. He argues that business executives generally do not understand key economic issues because they rely on false analogies between countries and corporations.
Like thinking a country needs to turn a profit.
Sort of. Applying the logic of a firm's balance sheet or a company's competitive strategy directly to a national economy can lead to profoundly flawed conclusions and potentially misguided policy decisions.
What kind of misunderstandings does he point to?
Well, common misunderstandings about things like exports and job creation or foreign investment and trade balances. He argues very strongly that a country is fundamentally different from a company in its core objectives and its operating rules.
How so?
A company aims to maximize profit for its shareholders. Pretty straightforward. A country, on the other hand, aims to maximize the welfare and standard of living for its citizens, a far more complex, multifaceted, and harder to measure goal.
Okay. For instance, he talks about trade and jobs, right?
Yeah.
Many business people intuitively believe that expanded world trade is good for world employment and that countries compete for those jobs.
Yeah, the thinking often goes, the more the United States exports, the more people we will employ domestically, and the more we import, the fewer jobs will be available here. It sounds perfectly logical on the surface, doesn't it?
It does. Like countries are just giant corporations battling for global market share and jobs.
Right. But Krugman argues this view is overly simplistic because it assumes there's a fixed pool of jobs in the world, which isn't really how modern economies work. He contends that countries must not only have free trade, but also be sufficiently competitive, meaning productive, to get a large proportion of the jobs that free trade creates.
So it's about productivity, not just trade balances.
For him, yes. He argues the primary purpose of trade, from a national perspective, isn't necessarily to maximize exports or win jobs, but rather to enable a nation to import goods and services more cheaply and efficiently than it could produce them domestically. This raises citizens' purchasing power and overall standard of living.
So imports can be good too.
In his view, absolutely. It's not about winning against other countries as if it were a zero-sum game, but about optimizing resource allocation globally to make everyone better off. It's a crucial reminder that national economies operate under different rules and objectives than corporate balance sheets. National wealth is ultimately about productive capacity and living standards, not just trade surpluses.
Okay, moving to a different economic philosophy now. Capitalism and Freedom by Milton Friedman. He champions the free market, doesn't he?
Very much so. He explains how, in his view, the free market acts as a powerful force that separates economic efficiency from irrelevant characteristics of individuals.
How does he illustrate that?
He uses the famous example of buying bread. The purchaser of bread does not know whether it was made from wheat grown by a white man or a Negro, by a Christian or a Jew. The market transaction focuses purely on the product and the price.
So the market is inherently impartial.
That's Friedman's argument. He posits that there is an inherent economic incentive in a free market to separate economic efficiency from other characteristics of the individual. Why? Because a business that expresses non-productive preferences, for example, discriminating based on race or religion in hiring, or refusing to serve certain customers is, in effect, imposing higher costs on himself.
How does discrimination impose higher costs?
By limiting their potential talent pool or restricting their customer base unnecessarily. They are artificially constraining their own business compared to competitors who don't discriminate and focus purely on efficiency and serving the widest possible market. Therefore, Friedman argues, in a truly free and competitive market, those who discriminate based on irrelevant factors will tend to drive him out because they will be less efficient and ultimately less profitable.
It's a powerful argument for the market as a mechanism for individual freedom and maybe even a force against prejudice by making prejudice costly.
That's certainly his perspective. Now, shifting again, The General Theory by John Maynard Keynes, a cornerstone of modern macroeconomics, touches profoundly on what determines the overall level of employment in an economy.
Right. Keynes focused on employment and aggregate demand.
Exactly. He states that employment depends on the aggregate supply function, the propensity to consume, and the volume of investment. These are the big levers that drive overall economic activity.
And he identifies a fundamental psychological law, doesn't he?
Yes, a crucial one for understanding how economies behave. When our income increases, our consumption increases also, but not by so much.
You don't spend every extra dollar we earn.
Precisely. We save a portion of any increase in income. This concept, which economists call the marginal propensity to consume, MPC, is central to understanding how things like government spending or tax cuts can stimulate an economy. Because people save a portion of any new income rather than spending it all immediately, the multiplier effect of that stimulus is limited.
Okay. And finally, let's bring in Adam Smith, the father of modern economics from The Wealth of Nations.
Can't talk economics without Smith. He discusses wage determination, describing it quite starkly as a bargain or contract between workmen and masters, employers, and he points out very clearly that their interests are by no means the same.
An inherent conflict.
An inherent tension, certainly. The masters, he says, always desired to pay as little as possible, and the workmen naturally want to get as much as possible. This fundamental tension shapes labor markets and the process of wage negotiation.
And he also makes a distinction about how spending affects national wealth or public opulence.
Yes, he distinguishes between spending revenue on things which are consumed immediately, like food, entertainment, transient pleasures, versus spending on things more durable.
Like what?
Things like productive capital, machinery, tools, infrastructure, roads, bridges, or even education and skills. He argues that investing in these things more durable contributes far more to the long-term wealth and productive capacity of a society than simply consuming immediate pleasures. It's an early argument for the enduring value of investment over immediate gratification for societal prosperity.
Okay, finally, let's look at the underlying human psychology that drives so many of these decisions, both personal and economic. Because let's face it, no matter how rational we think we are.
We're often not.
Exactly. Our sources offer some fascinating insights into persuasion, cognitive biases, and the powerful, often hidden influence of expectations on our choices.
Influenced by Robert Cialdini is a classic here. It details how people are more likely to deal with information in a controlled, thoughtful fashion when they have both the desire and the ability to analyze it carefully.
When they care and have the time or energy.
Right. Otherwise, he says, they are likely to use the easier click-run approach. They fall back on mental shortcuts or heuristics.
Can you give an example?
He illustrates this with a study where university students who would be personally affected by a proposed policy change focused on the quality of the arguments when evaluating a speech about it. Makes sense, right? They analyze carefully.
Sure.
But students who would not be personally affected by the policy, they relied primarily on superficial cues, like the perceived expertise or credentials of the speaker. Oh, he's a professor, he must be right. They use the shortcut.
The click, run response?
Exactly. It often means we defer to perceived authority or social proof, everyone else is doing it, or other surface-level cues when we're busy, distracted, or simply don't care enough to invest the mental energy to dig deeper. It's a testament to our brain's efficiency, but also its potential laziness.
And Predictably Irrational by Dan O'Reilly gives us some amazing examples of priming, doesn't it? How subtle, unconscious cues can profoundly impact our behavior.
Oh, those experiments are fantastic. It describes one where people subliminally exposed to polite words like respect or considerate waited an average of 9.3 minutes before interrupting a staged conversation. But people primed with rude words like disrupt or bother, they only waited 5.5 minutes on average before interrupting.
Wow, just from seeing the words beforehand.
Yeah. Similarly, another experiment primed undergraduate students with elderly-related words such as Florida, wrinkle, or bingo. What happened? When they left the experiment, they actually walked considerably slower down the hallway compared to a control group who hadn't seen those words.
That's incredible. Our environment unconsciously shapes our actions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These experiments teach us that expectations are more than the mere anticipation. They are powerful, active constructs that fundamentally shape our perception and our experience of the world.
How so?
Well, expectations enable us to make sense of a conversation in a noisy room by filling in the missing sounds based on context, or they allow us to read text messages on our cell phones, despite all the typos and abbreviations. Our brain anticipates and fills in the gaps.
So they're useful shortcuts.
Very useful. And although our expectations can make us look foolish from time to time when they turn out to be wrong, they're also very powerful and useful in helping us interpret and navigate the complex world around us efficiently. They create a coherent reality for us. They are mental frameworks that allow us to function, but they also carry inherent biases.
So what does this all mean for us as individuals trying to make informed decisions in this world full of influences and biases?
Well, bringing in Nudge by Thaler and Sunstein, we learn that people generally adopt sensible rules of thumb, or heuristics, that usually work well but sometimes lead them astray, especially in challenging or unfamiliar situations.
We use mental shortcuts because thinking hard takes effort.
Exactly. Because people are busy and have limited attention, they tend to accept questions as posed rather than deeply analyzing the framing, and they are, as the authors put it, remarkably nudgeable.
Nudgeable, meaning easily influenced by how choices are presented.
Precisely. We are not always purely rational actors carefully weighing all options. Often, our choices are heavily influenced by the way options are presented, choice architecture, by default settings, what happens if you do nothing, or by subtle social cues in our environment.
So, understanding these inherent cognitive biases and the mechanisms of persuasion isn't just useful for marketers or politicians trying to influence us.
No, it's vital for anyone trying to make more informed personal decisions, communicate more effectively, or indeed influence others ethically and effectively. It's about being aware of the subtle forces at play beneath the surface of our conscious thought.
And recognizing that our supposedly rational decisions are often shaped by very human, very predictable irrationalities.
Exactly. Awareness is the first step to making better choices.
Outro?
Wow. What a journey through some truly powerful ideas today. That was quite a deep dive.
It really was. A lot to unpack there. We've seen how strategic companies like Netflix proactively, almost brutally, redefine their business, embracing streaming even if it meant disrupting their own highly successful DVD model, becoming pioneers in their own right.
That willingness to obsolete yourself.
Exactly. We've looked at how visionary, maybe slightly obsessive leaders like Jeff Bezos fight that institutional no to embrace audacious risks, laying the groundwork for entire new industries like cloud computing.
The long-term vision there is just incredible.
And we explored fundamental principles from Peter Drucker that can empower both individuals and teams, things like making strengths productive, managing yourself effectively by understanding how you work best, and aligning your actions with your deepest values.
Timeless wisdom from Drucker.
Absolutely. We also confronted the darker side, the ethical challenges of unchecked power, from Robert Moses's relentless ambition to the devastating financial deceptions of Enron.
And the systemic failures that enabled them.
Right, and we grappled with the intricate, sometimes deeply irrational forces at play in our financial and economic systems.
From black swans to our own psychological biases.
So as you, our listener, reflect on all of this, what stands out to you from this rich tapestry of insights?
Yeah, what's the one thing that really resonated? Perhaps it's the very practical importance of understanding your own personal sleeping point in investment, that crucial balance between pursuing financial gain and maintaining your own peace of mind.
Or maybe it's the insight that true, sustainable competitive power requires that continuous layering process we talked about. It's not just a one-time win, but a relentless strategic evolution, constantly building new advantages.
Or perhaps it's just becoming more aware of the subtle ways our environment, the way choices are framed, our own expectations constantly nudge our decisions, revealing that human behavior isn't always purely rational, even when we firmly believe it is.
This deep dive really reminds us that knowledge is most valuable when it's not just collected, but understood, integrated, and then actively applied to your own context, your own life, your own work.
Absolutely. Knowledge into action.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over. If success, whether it's personal or professional, often comes from being willing to obsolete yourself, to critically evaluate and potentially abandon old ways of doing things, even successful ones, and continually layer on different sources of power or capability.
Where might you need to do that?
Exactly. What current truths or assumptions in your own life or work might you need to question, disrupt, or even completely abandon to create your next blue ocean? Where are you perhaps clinging to an old model, a familiar skill set, or just a comfortable routine out of habit or fear?
And what new possibilities might you be overlooking by not challenging your own status quo and daring to redefine what's next for you?
Consider that challenge. We really encourage you to take these nuggets of knowledge, combine them with your own unique insights and experiences, and just continue to explore.
There's always more to learn, isn't there? And engaging with multiple perspectives, even conflicting ones, truly enriches your understanding and ultimately empowers your choices.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We really hope it's given you plenty to think about. Until next time.
Thanks for listening.